Lo Duca is a four-time All-Star, Barstool Radio, Barstool Bets. He does it all. He joins us now. Paul, thanks so much for spending some time with us this afternoon. How you doing?
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No, appreciate you, and we'll get to some of your tweets about the Wilpons in just a second, but the playoff format changes, this proposal. You think what, and put yourself in the player's shoes, if you were still playing, you would think what about this new postseason format?
They're reaching. They're putting up a smokescreen. To me, to put the scandal a little bit behind. I think it's very, very unfortunate. They've changed the game within the last 3 to 4 years. You can't take out the second baseman. You can't take out the catcher. You're letting guys lick their fingers on the mound. Now a guy has to stay in for the whole inning. You're going to try to take the DH away. So this whole process started with trying to make games shorter, which obviously now you're going to make them completely longer. And now you're going to add extra teams. And what's going to end up happening is, say the Yankees and the Dodgers, who are expected to win both divisions, win. They have to sit back and wait for the other, games or the other playoff games to go. That is a disadvantage for the teams that win. If you think about it, baseball is the one sport where getting rest at the end of the season, you really don't want a ton of rest because it's a timing type thing. And I'll take you back to 2006. We went 7 games with the Cardinals, and the Detroit Tigers had to wait 10 days for that series to end. And then the Cardinals swept them after they beat us because Detroit was just out of sorts. It's a timing game. So now you're going to put them at a disadvantage, and they might have to sit 6, 7, 8 days, and then they pick their opponent. I mean, it's just, to me, you're starting to play Price is Right with a game that has been around for so long, and you're changing rules every year. And the rules are making the game longer.
Yeah,
and
but
the robo-umpire, too, as well.
Yeah, but Paul, I mean, you look at it right now, I get change is difficult, right? But you're bringing more teams into the playoffs. From my understanding, when you look at those opening round, say, wild card games, those 3 games would be played in the same window that they would use for the wild card games now. So the season ends on a Sunday, right? You'd have those Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Within those 4 days, you're looking at a scenario where that opening round is played. It's 3 home dates for 3 home games. Conceivably, if it goes 3 games for the team that's hosting. Therefore, it's not an extended break. You're not looking at 7, 8 days off for the number 1 seed in each respective league.
You're looking at a significant time off, and you could have rain. There could be so many things that can happen. A lot of people forget Game 7 was rained out. Then we played Game 7 in 2006. So, to me, is why I do not like the 1-game playoff because it can go either way. I would be okay with 2 out of 3, but adding more teams is ridiculous. You play 162 games. People are saying this because they're basing it on maybe the NFL because they play only 16 games. But that's a gruesome sport, obviously. 16 games is a lot of games. Right. 162 games plus spring training games, and you're going to add more teams. It's just, 162 games, if that doesn't give you who the best teams are, we don't need 7 teams. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Paul, what from the player's perspective, though, about this? Like the idea that more teams would be competitive. So say someone like yourself, if you're, say you're on a team that's, not going anywhere, potentially there's a chance for you to get traded to a team that could be on a playoff track. Or the fact that you guys, the players might get more money because the expanded postseason would add to the TV dollars. Do you think that plays into the player's mindset?
Yeah, 100%. You get a percentage of the playoff shares. I don't know how that's going to work. Usually if you make the playoffs, you have a meeting with all your guys and you split the shares, something like that.
Right.
If you finish in second place, you get shares. So now playoff shares are going to get cut for the team that actually wins it. So it is beneficial to it's not the players. It's for the bullpen coaches. It's for the third base and first base coaches that are not making the millions of dollars. They get an extra little bump at the end of the year. I mean, we used to make fun all the time. The Braves clubhouse guy made a ton of money when they won all those titles, how many in a row. So, yeah, it is. It's beneficial to some of the players when it comes to revenue at the end of the year. But all they're doing, Major League Baseball, is just trying to get more money out of the – let's be honest. They're trying to get more money out of TV rights. That's just the bottom line. That's just basically what they're doing. And they keep changing the sport. I don't understand why they're changing the sport. they cause their own collusion by loading the ball, basically, because my daughter could hit 250 and 15 home runs. So the whole league is doing it. So you're pricing everybody at the same price. So it's become a clown show. It really has become a clown show. And the thing that I hate about all of this is the commissioner won't put himself in front of the camera and explain anything. That's my thing about it.
Well, Paul, okay, let me play devil's advocate here for a second, right? Attendance has been down. They're looking to try and generate new baseball fans, right? This is not for you, a former player who's a huge baseball fan, not for Maggie and myself who are watching games and we're huge baseball fan, but this is for the 17, 18, 19-year-old sports fan that they're looking to bring into the sport, bring into the game. You make more cities competitive. You make the trade deadline a lot more interesting. You add more relevant playoff baseball to the mix. At the end, doesn't that help the sport's popularity?
If you think it does, but if you think these millennials or people that are true baseball fans are going to want to sit through 4-hour games, I guarantee you the average game is going to be over 3 hours this year, easily. Now you can't take a pitcher out, so the specialty lefty is out, and people are like, well, that's going to speed up the game. No, it's not. He's going to get lit up by the righty right behind. He faces the lefty. So are we taking that out of the game? We're taking everything. My point is I'm not caring about the interest in the sport. I'm caring about you're taking so many different people out of the sport. You're taking the defensive player out of the sport. Like a guy like Mike Moustakas, I think he's a great player. He's not a second baseman, and in no way, shape, or form would he ever be able to turn a double play before they change the rule. But he's allowed to play second base because defense is not really – it doesn't matter. It's all about shifts. It's all about this. It's all about that. You can't take anybody out. You can stand on top of the base. I could play second base right now, and I was a catcher. It's just when you change rules like that, you're making it an offensive sport, and you're trying to make it arena baseball, which they have done. I don't care about – I'm fine with them having, maybe some extra teams or extra games, but the games are going to be excruciating long. I mean, like, I have a bad feeling kids are going to be going to bed. I just think that you're messing with a sport that has been such a great sport for such a long time. It's hard enough, and you spend a lot of money to go to a game, and now you're going to have to sit through 5 hours and replays and this and that, and I just think – why mess with it? I thought Trevor Bauer's tweet last night was bold as they come because I think he's the first guy that I think has ever taken a shot at an MLB commissioner. You see it at all other levels. They take shot at at Goodell, at players do, but I haven't seen a player take a shot at an MLB commissioner. And to be honest, I think he was dead on.
I know, but he didn't listen. And I'm for guys being outspoken without a doubt, right? You have your platform. You should be able to use it however you want. I wish that Bauer, though, had said exactly why he didn't like it. He was just like, I don't like it. I was like equating it to like when your wife or girlfriend is mad at you and it's like, well, why are you mad at me? It's like, well, if you don't even know I'm mad at you, then we got even bigger issues. Like he didn't spell out what bothered him so much about it.
I think, well, what bothers him, the Astros things bothers him. And it's just the situation that has been going on throughout this whole process is that, first of all, Manfred has not done anything with Cora. I still don't know why. Second, you're trying to tell me that he didn't alert the Mets, hey, Beltran's named in this investigation. Maybe you should stay away from him. Or the Mets believe him because they're morons. And then he didn't step in there. Every Mets beat writer was all over the Beltran thing, but now the Wilpon thing, you can't find a Mets beat writer within 100 miles. So I think Bauer's just fed up with everything that the man won't stand in front of the camera and explain things. And when you're the commissioner of baseball and you have trades that are being made and not being made and people are backing out, owners backing out, you got to take control of the situation. Get in front of a mic and act like a man, act like you actually run the league. And I think that's what Trevor was more about than more about just like, why are you changing things? You're putting up a smoke screen. Oh, we're going to put up this. We're going to put up. It's a smoke screen. You still haven't dealt with the situation.
Do you think Manfred has a credibility problem? Sorry, Paul, to talk over you. Do you feel like Manfred has a credibility problem right now?
Well, 100% when you're getting compared to Bud Selig. Let's be honest. Yeah. Bud Selig was shaking Roger Maris's family's hands, knowing that Mark McGwire was on rocket fuel. But then when 2002 was probably the most profitable year when Sosa and him were going for the home run chase, you're trying to tell me he didn't know those guys were on rocket fuel? but then played the whole big thing, oh no, and then stood in Ryan Braun's corner. Then Ryan Braun lambasted the guy that took his P test, but then Ryan Braun came out and it was true. You don't think that had something to do with Bud Selig? There's been so much stuff that's gone on between Bud and Manfred that's just ridiculous. And at least Bud stuck his face in front of a camera, but he was a used car salesman. Rob doesn't even try.
Well, okay, let's number one here. Do you think? Let's backtrack here for baseball here for a second, right? What do you want baseball to do then, right? The sport's popularity is not where they want it, right?
Don't change it, Moose.
Well,
Moose,
but
how bad has baseball
been?
been?
I'm not, but Paul, they're not generating more fans. I mean,
exactly.
The
NFL
has surpassed them. The NBA has surpassed them. When we were younger, it was baseball and there was everything else. That is no longer the case. What do you want Manfred and Major League Baseball to do here? Do nothing? Sit on their heads?
So what about? Okay, you guys talk about change. Where's the change in the umpires?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that's fair.
So everything's changed for them. If they want to change everything, okay. Where's the change for the umpires who stink? If you're implying that you want to go to a robo umpire, so what are you implying to the other umpires? That they stink. And they all can just stay where they want. Nobody moves up, nobody moves down. 40 years in the league. So you're fighting a battle where the best player in the league is Mike Trout, and you can't market him. The marketing strategy that the MLB has, it's tough because you play so many games, 162 games. People are not going to be interested in that many games. So football flew by them, basketball flew by them, and hockey playoffs flew by the MLB playoffs. So maybe that's why they're trying to create more playoff games. I don't know. But to me, you're changing a game that has been glorious for so many years. I tweeted yesterday that they used to be heroes, and they used to be heroes in the 50s. Now you see guys walking down the street, you might notice 4 or 5 guys that play in the MLB because they don't market. It's just the bottom line. Everything's a smokescreen. Everything is a secret. MLB can investigate agents. MLPA, I told everybody there was going to be no sanctions against the Astros players unless you were named in that thing, because the MLPA will go to their death to protect their players because they're the best union in all of sports. And MLB can't do nothing about it. They got no power.
We're talking with Paul Lo Duca. Paul, just to switch gears just for a second, just back to the Mets, because we saw your tweet yesterday, and I got a good laugh out of it. You said Jeff Wilpon putting out a statement, not standing in front of a camera and doing a press conference is slapping every Mets fan in the face. That's like breaking up with your girlfriend by text. Obviously, you're big with accountability. You said that with the commissioner, with Major League Baseball, and obviously with the Wilpons. What was your reaction when you saw the deal had fallen through between the Wilpons and Steve Cohen?
Well, listen, my reaction was I couldn't believe the reaction, but the reaction afterward was what really got me unsettled, is that all the Met beat writers went away. When Carlos Beltran got fired, every Met beat writer was all over it. I mean, they couldn't get enough of it. The Wilpon thing goes through, and then MLB guys and certain guys start putting out things. Oh, Cohen is shady. Shady? You guys got $13 billion in his account, and I think he'd be okay without the Wilpons. And when we're calling the Wilpons angels, and my point is that you have a mega deal fall through, and the guy was going to pay over what you're worth, but you want to control things. But then you try to smear his name through other sources, through Martino, through Fox Business. MLB even tried to back up the Wilpons because they're friends, because they back each other up. This is the bottom line. But Jeff can't stand in front of the camera and explain what happened. That is ludicrous that you own the New York Mets and you can't stand in front of a camera and make that same statement. You draw out a statement that's planned by his secretary or somebody else and says, I can't comment on the deal, but before they want to smear his name where he can't buy an MLB team, like Mark Cuban can't buy an MLB team anymore. They did the same thing to Trump a long time ago, obviously, in Cuban, and now they're going to smear Cohen's name through what? Through other sources. Why doesn't Jeff come out and say, you know what, da-da-da-da-da-da-da? No, it goes through other sources that they tell. They're trying to play a game, and Mets fans know it, and they see it. And you cannot tell me, if you were a Mets fan, you don't believe a word I'm saying, because I've been narrating it to you all week, all 2 weeks over Twitter. I've been telling everybody that this deal was going to crack and that the Wilpons have no clue what they're doing. And that's just the bottom line.
Well, Paul, why? I mean, I'm sure you hear. Why do you think Met fans are as frustrated with the Wilpons as they are?
Because they want the team to sell. They want the team to sell. It was sold. But how would you give somebody $3 billion and say, you know what? You don't got no control?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
What kind of world do you live in? But yet it was Cohen's fault. And that's my problem with the thing. People are writing it was Cohen's fault. Okay, it was Cohen's fault. He's shady now. It just turned into let's smear Cohen, and let's make the Wilpons look good. The Cohen, maybe he's not going to be able to buy another team now. You think he cares now? He's got $13 billion in the bank. Do you think he really cares? He's probably tickled to death. He doesn't have to deal with them.
We're talking with Paul Lo Duca. Paul, you played for the team. You guys had success. Do you feel like the Wilpons actually want to win, or do you think they just want to dangle hope to the fan base?
No, I think they do want to win, but the problem is they fell into basically in 2006 when the Marlins didn't get their stadium, they basically unloaded me and Carlos. We came over and they picked up our contracts. They just fell into that team, and they developed obviously Jose Reyes and David Wright. But you got to remember that 2006 team had John Maine, Phil Humber, Oliver Perez, Steve Traxel. That was our starting pitching staff, and we almost went to the World Series.
Crazy.
Pedro Martinez, that was basically done, and then Orlando Hernandez both didn't even pitch in the playoffs that year. They weren't even consequential. Duaner Sanchez got into a cab accident. We didn't even have a pitching staff. So since then, what happened? 2015, they went to the World Series. You got to capitalize on these moments, and they haven't. They went out. They went and got Cespedes, and I get that. He decided he wanted to ride bulls. Like, it's just you can't keep things under control. You build a $37 million clubhouse that for spring training that only the major leaguers can stay in, but the minor leaguers can't because it's something they want to push for. Excuse my language, give me a break. Because the Dodgers used to have a thing when I first played where you had to have your socks up. And the privilege was you can wear your socks down when you make it to the – all wore our socks up. If you wore your pants down, they would take out scissors and cut them. That's different than not letting kids stay in a locker room that you paid $37 million. So you paid $37 million for a locker room that they're going to stay in for a month and a half. That just explains everything about the Mets.
Paul, I want to get your thoughts here on Beltran here because you mentioned it, and because Maggie and I, when we listened to the conference call where that Brody said he didn't know anything about anything in terms of Beltran, we saw a path if the Mets were kind of aggressive initially of keeping Beltran on as manager. Curious how everything from your perspective, how it played out for the Mets manager and the whole mindset, or really the whole rub from Brody saying that he didn't know anything that was going on down in Houston.
Well, that's a protection, or it's, again, how do you want to spin this, Moose? It's either Wilpon's fault or it's Manfred's fault. It's just the bottom line. So which one do you want to take? Because if you look at the statistics, he was the third person on there that got the most bangs. He was the third person. Marwin Gonzalez was number 1. Springer was 2. Beltran was 3. He was named in the investigation. So you're trying to tell me that MLB did not alert the Wilpons that, hey, maybe you should back off Carlos because he's in the investigation and he might get suspended here. Or did Carlos lie to them, or did the Wilpons buy it? Or it's a circle like no one will stand in front of the camera. It's a clown show.
Wait, but Paul, what do you believe?
That's me about this whole thing.
What do you believe?
To be honest with you, I believe that Major League Baseball probably told them, and the Wilpons probably just believed, don't worry, he'll get off. Nothing's going to really happen. But once you're named in those things, you're toast. Mm-hmm. And I truly don't know what to believe. I don't know what to believe anymore. That's why when you call Cohen shady, it's like, how can you call someone shady when what just happened with this whole organization has been shady? I mean, think about what's happened You traded a shortstop, and then you didn't trade a shortstop before the 2015 World Series. You had a guy that didn't show up in Matt Harvey and didn't tell anybody. I mean, the things that have happened in the last 4 years with the Mets, it's just unbelievable, the stuff that has happened. And it's just like, as a Mets fan, and Moose knows it, I'm a diehard Mets fan. I grew up one and played for him. You deal with the situation, and you just feel like you're just getting kicked in the gut constantly. And all a Met fan wants is, give me an explanation of what is going on, but you can't get it. You get a statement. And all the reporters put source, which is my favorite word, source. Because what is the source? Who is the source? And that's why it's a big rat chase. And that's why both of them won't stick their face in front of a camera.
Paul, final one for me. When you look at this Met team this year, with all that being said, with everything that we just talked about for the last 20 minutes, you look at this team this year with DeGrom leading that rotation. I mean, he is as good as it gets in the sport.
Yeah. I mean, listen, they're good. This is what stinks about the whole thing. If Jonas comes back to being 75%, they're good. Now, I understand Polar Bear is going to probably digress a little bit. I think a lot of people are saying he is a lot. I don't think so. I love his swing. It's very, very, how do I put it? It's very simple. Doesn't have a lot of movement at all. I love his approach. I think his average will get a lot better. I don't know if he's going to hit 50-some home runs again, but I think he is going to be a solid hitter if he stays healthy. I don't think there's a lot of flaws in his swing. I don't think he's going to really digress that much. The young kids, McNeil can flat out hit. I think offensively they've gotten a lot better. And you talk about it. Listen, they got their ace in DeGrom. They got a guy that can shut a team down anytime, any place. The hottest hitting team, I don't care. He can shut down the Yankees. And so can Noah on any given day as well. So they got two guys that you don't want to face the Mets in the playoffs. Let's be honest. The bullpen has gotten stronger. The thing is, the division has gotten stronger. The Nationals will still be okay. The Phillies will probably move up 5 to 6 games because I just think Joe Girardi is way better than Gabe Kapler, and he'll move that team up. So the road's going to be more difficult, but they're going to be good, and that's what makes this so uneasy, that it's made it somewhat of a mess of what's going on, and everything's been focused on the Wilpons and the sell of the team, and now they're saying they want to sell the team. It's a joke. It's turned into laughable, and I think it's a shame for the players. Maybe it will be good for the players because all the focus will go off them, but I have a bad feeling that once they go to spring training, every question is going to be in their face about the sell of the team, and that's not fair to the players. People don't realize that part of it as well. And maybe Jeff will stay out of the locker room for once.
Okay, final one for me because it's about that. I heard your story, obviously, about when you were playing for the Mets and Jeff came into the locker room and took a pair of sunglasses from your locker. I mean, is that really where things went sour between you and Jeff Wilpon? Because I think fans will hear it, Paul. They'll hear in your voice the passion. They understand you sound like one of us in terms of your frustration, but what you're different from us because you actually were an employee there. Was there something else that turned you on Jeff Wilpon?
Oh, listen. When somebody goes in your locker, you don't even go in your other person's locker. But when you go in someone's locker and grab their game sunglasses, I told them, you can go to Sunglass Hut and buy your own glasses.
You can own Sunglass Hut.
Yeah, he got my glove one day and asked me, he says, why don't you lower your target? And I just looked at him, and the things he would say, I'm like, and then I remember telling him, I'm like, why don't you just get out of the locker room? Because owners should not be in the locker room. That's why you hire a general manager, and a general manager hires a manager, and the manager hires a catching coach. Those are the people I talk to. You've never stepped your foot ever on a baseball field, on a Major League Baseball field. You own the team, I get it, but get out of my locker. And it was a common theme with him, and he wants to be a player. He used to pitch. When we used to go on the road, he used to pitch at Shea Stadium with all of his friends. He wants to be a player. That's the problem. He can't let it go. It's like his drug. He's addicted to the Mets, and he found a guy with a lot of money and said, you know what? Let me take power with his money. And then tried to smear the guy. I'm just not a fan. Bottom line.
Hey, Paul, great stuff. We appreciate
Really
the time.
appreciate you jumping on, Paul. And, your Twitter handle, you're a must follow, and you always say exactly what you mean, and we appreciate your perspective.
I appreciate you guys having me on. I love both of you. Moose, you the man.
You got it. Paul Lo Duca.
There's a love there.
That's it.
There's
There
was
is. See you at the
born
track,
at the
Paul.
track.
That's it. I love Paul.
It's a deeper level than baseball.
That's it.
It's a little more ponies.
Yeah.